So, yeah, I'm Mike. Never ridden a zebra, but it sounds pretty cool. I do like torpedoes a lot. So, so you guys have probably heard of the apostolic exhortation that Pope Francis wrote. I'm not sure if any of you guys have had a chance to read it or skim it or do anything about it, but it's just really amazing that how this man from Argentina, who was a Jesuit, is just so in tune with social media and just the issues that we face today as young adults. So I first want to start out by saying that definitely it's nice to be here among the legendary grad students and the young professionals. It's definitely a whole different world. But the first thing I want to bring up before I get right into my testimony is he speaks a lot about community and this sense that evangelization really comes from community. And you guys have an awesome community here. And I just want to read this little quote that he has. An evangelizing community knows that the Lord has taken initiative, that he has loved us first, and therefore we can move forward boldly and take initiative to go out to others and to seek those who have fallen away and to stand at the crossroads so we can welcome the outcast. So that's a great word, outcast. I like it a lot because I definitely felt like I was an outcast a lot in my life. So to begin, I want to share my favorite scripture passage from Luke. Now this is Jesus, one of the big, great three parables in the Gospel of Luke. And he says, now the tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to him, and the Pharisees and the scribes murmured, saying, this man receives sinners and eats with them. And he told them this parable. What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he had lost one of them, does not leave the other 99 in the wilderness and go after the one which is lost? So, I was that lost sheep. I was that sheep that was so far away. I had a Catholic upbringing, had my first Holy Communion, or FHC if you're from the streets, and I never was confirmed, but I never also had a faith that was any type of, that wasn't solid in any means. So about the time that I was 8, my mom decides to run away to Paris, and then comes back with another kid. So we were living in Boston, this little tiny suburb of Boston. All of a sudden, my mom just goes to Paris and comes back, and she's pregnant. So obviously, my dad's like, exactly. And, they get a divorce, and once my half sister was born, this started I'm not sure if any of you have experienced this, but there was this start of moms on the weekends, dads during the week, then moms during the weekends, and then mom would be too drunk or something, so she couldn't take us, so we were at dad's for the weekend, and then mom's for the next weekend. And it was kind of just this really bad situation for any young kid to be growing up in. So I was really confused, and I was really lost. I was really hurt, I was wounded. And like I said, we did, there was a little bit of Catholic in there, but it was more we went to, Christmas Mass and Easter Vigil, and then maybe an occasional sprinkling of some Sunday Mass for some reason, maybe someone died or something. So through this, I started acting out. Let's fast forward a few years. I'm about 13. I start, trying to act out in any way that I can, just like the media in a public high school does to, I'm sure, a lot of people that you know. I started getting involved with the wrong crowd. I started trying to smoke pot. I start punching holes in walls, and I'm just pissed, and I'm, have no idea what's going on with my entire life. And I'm only 13, so of course I should know what's going on in my life. So either, I'm still not sure to this day, but either through a lack of knowledge of what to do, or maybe even some fear, my dad decides to send me to this Wilderness Youth at Risk Expedition. It's called Outward Bound. Now, this is supposed to, you go out, it's like 35 days. Oh, by the way, I absolutely love the outdoors. So it's like 35 days in the woods, you're camping, you're canoeing, you're climbing mountains, and, it was co-ed, so that doesn't hurt a 15-year-old hormonal boy whatsoever. And not a thing was done for my disorder. I had a blast, I had a ton of fun. There was like a 3-mile race at the end. I came in second, and I was like, yes, I'm going home, and I'm gonna smoke some pot. And then all of a sudden, my dad comes, and he's just like, Mike, I'm sorry you're not gonna come home. I'm actually going to send you to this therapeutic boarding school. Okay, so get this. So I went to this boarding school. So an hour and a half of group therapy a day, 3 on Sundays, because that's the holy day of obligation, 3 hours of therapy, right? So this was just like the worst thing ever. I mean, I don't know, I'm sure some of us have been to therapy, and it can help, I guess, some people. But for me, it was just like a group where I could just like swear and piss and be like, "Brr, you do this and I do this, and well, F you too." And really just nothing got done because I just had no respect for anything. And as you can see, God is just nowhere, like whatsoever. Like, absolutely, I was never given a rosary, I was never given a medal, I was never given anything to try and like, even hint at the fact that there like was a God. So after that, I fell right into the foster care system, and I was in foster care for the duration of high school. So I was about 15 when I left that therapeutic boarding school because they weren't suited to fit my needs, whatever that means. I mean, I was just angry. But some of the kids there were like really, really troubled. There was this one girl who cut herself like 150 times, like all over her body. There was a lot of people who were struggling with suicide. There was a lot of people struggling with a lot of really deep-seated issues. And I was just angry, and I wanted to party. Like, that's kind of all I wanted to do. So like this kind of setting wasn't appropriate. So they sent me, in Massachusetts, we have what's called the Department of Social Services. I think you have something similar in Wisconsin. And that is just like, the state owns me. So whatever the state wants me to do, I do. So I ended up going into this kind of fluctuating foster care system where one foster home would be awesome because basically the foster parents just did nothing and I was able to do whatever I want. And then others were so strict that I couldn't even snack during the day. So if I was hungry when I got back to school, or when I got home from school, sorry, you can't eat until dinner. So they really sucked, and because I still was just so confused, so lost, so angry, I decided it's a great idea to help my foster brother, what's called cheeking, which is like you take your pills, but you really think them in your cheek, and then you spit them out, and then I would sell them at school. Well, this was a great plan for like a day, and then I got caught. So as soon as I got caught, they were like, oh, well, can't live here anymore. So I got sent. So if you can imagine, oh, that's my silly quote. So if you can imagine, this is Massachusetts, and this is a little farm right here. So Boston, obviously right here. Then I went to foster care pretty much in the middle of the state. And then I ended up way up here to where in my backyard I could spit in Vermont. It was sweet. And that's where I stayed until I graduated high school. Now this foster home was awesome. I'm still in touch with them today. My foster dad was like what I thought a man was. Like me and him would go and split 9 cords of wood and wouldn't complain at all. And then he would let me drink a beer. It was just great. He taught me how to run a chainsaw. He taught me just so many things which I thought like is what a man should be. So I really looked up to my foster father. And then turned 18. Woohoo! And I get out of the foster care system. I decided to go to college. And as soon as that all happened, I was being drug tested. So the drug test stopped. And I had basically no supervision whatsoever. So I start doing everything I possibly can. By the time I left for college, I was only dabbling, like I was smoking pot very consistently. I was drinking pretty consistently as well. And I dabbled in a little bit of cocaine, but nothing too serious. And then I found out my foster dad smokes pot, and I'm like, no way, this is just the best ever. So like, I started selling pot to my foster dad, which is like, when you think about it, that's just ridiculous. So, I ended up, okay, so I'm gonna actually show you exactly how I got accepted to college. So, I'm there, I'm in high school, probably stoned, and this guy, his name's Charlie, he's awesome. He has like an Australian or British accent, I can never tell the two apart. He comes in, he's just like, so we want you to come to our college. And I'm just sitting there, I'm just, all right. And then I was in college. So I go to college in way upstate New York, 45 minutes away from Canada. It's cold, it's snowy, it's a lot like right here. I absolutely loved it. By the time I got to college, I was just so deep into my party lifestyle that was all that mattered. I had horrible grades, I wasn't doing anything, but by the time freshman year had ended, the best way for me to explain it is that the only two drugs that I haven't done were meth and PCP. And that was just after 1 year of college. So I was pretty excited about where my life was going. I was like, this is great. Like, I have a great rap sheet. I mean, I can pretty much drink half a 30 rack and still drive a car. This is awesome. So again, there was just absolutely no evidence that God existed. There was nobody reaching out to me. There was no anything. So I finished college somehow. Actually, I technically didn't finish college. And I just took a psychology class last semester. So I just finished my 2-year degree in culinary and business last semester. So I finished college and I do what any other, party, rock and roll, drug kid would do. I moved to Colorado. And when I got to Colorado, the only thing I wanted to do was grow weed. So I did. So I got my red card as soon as I got there, and I was just living the drug, sex, and rock and roll lifestyle. It was amazing. Like, just how the whole situation ended up to me living in this crappy little apartment with some friends, growing pot in my basement, and really just like living my life. I really got really big into like hallucinogenic drugs and just like going to raves and it just was, it was intense. So far you've only heard me talk about all these crazy things I've done. Now here's the craziest. So, I'm in Boulder, which is awesome. I still love Colorado. I still want to go back. So, I'm in Boulder. I get a job at Whole Foods because after selling weed and sitting on the couch and playing Call of Duty for a few months, I was just sick of that lifestyle. So I got a job at Whole Foods, and all of a sudden I meet this person. So this person comes in, and the first thing she says to me, she goes right up to me, she goes, "You have huge eyebrows." I'm like, "Whoa, thank you." So immediately I thought she was hitting on me, of course. Like, why else would anybody tell me that I have huge eyebrows? Like, what else could she be interested in? So I decided to take her up to the New Belgium Brewery, which is about almost an hour north of Boulder. And on the way back, I asked her if she wants to smoke some pot. She's just like, no, I'm okay. And I'm like, all right, that's weird. So why don't you want to smoke? And she was like, well, I'm Catholic and Jesus Christ is the center of my life. Since I had my first Holy Communion, I was like, me too! This is great! There's so much in common! Man! So I quickly figured out that I wasn't anything but Catholic. And that's really where, like Jesus first showed me a little bit who he was. Is after all of my unsuccessful attempts to try and woo this woman into bed with me, and she would just like laugh like it was a joke, and I'd be like, I'm really trying to like do something right now. And she just, it was just like so forward to me. Like, why was she living this way? Why did she not want to party with me or have sex with me? Why didn't she want to do any of these things with me? Like, it didn't make sense, because up until that point, my life was just been about me. I didn't care about you. I didn't care about my parents. I didn't care about my family. I didn't care about anything. I really didn't care about me either. So, after a pretty grueling couple of months of me trying to sleep with this woman, she keeps hanging out with me, and I just have no idea why. And not because I'm a missionary, I know exactly why, but she never really gave up. She kept coming and hanging out with me and my friends when she was just like this Catholic girl hanging out with these guys who are snorting coke in the bathroom. Like, what is she doing there? But through her witness, it really just kind of started to dawn on me. Now, I'm not saying this was just a 1-2, oh, I'm converted. No, this was a very long process. Actually, that's probably a little exaggerated. It was about 3 months. And then she brought me to Mass. I don't know why I went. And when I did go, I sat in the pew all the way to the end, curled up like this, and hugged my knees. And when everyone stood, I just did it like this. I didn't move, I didn't sing, I didn't even breathe, I don't think. And then it was almost like I could feel the demons getting ripped out of me, just by going to that one Mass. I obviously didn't know it at the time, because I was just I don't know what I was. But, and after that point, again, I don't know why. The only thing I can really attribute it to is God's grace, because I have no idea why He wanted me. I have no idea why He was doing this. At the time, I didn't even believe in Him. I still just wanted to sleep with this woman. And then I started, going to Mass regularly. Once every other week. That's kind of regularly. And I was stoned. So I was going to Mass stoned every other week, which was a pretty good step. And then all of a sudden she just drops the bomb on me. She's like, oh, you should go to confession. And I'm like, what? I gotta tell all the things that I've done, which I don't even think are wrong, to some old guy with a latte on his face. Why would I want to do that? I'm good. And after, again, a few months of her just being there, asking me, I went to confession with a list this big, front and back, of just crap, of just garbage that I needed to get rid of. And after that confession, it wasn't I walked out and was like, woo, I'm saved. I just kept going. This cycle of me going to Mass stoned, of getting drunk on the weekends, going to confession. But the thing that changed here is I started to receive Jesus in the Eucharist again. So now I was receiving this great gift that Jesus has given us. So now, again, I'm living this life. I'm on the fence. I'm halfway. I'm living this dual life. I got my friends over here that are just and I'm a pretty social guy, and I was always the guy that if some of my friends were like, well, no, I'm tired, I'd be like, well, let's drink a Red Bull and get drunk. And I can always rally the troops, so to speak. I'm still kind of that way, but just not getting drunk, hopefully. So, again, there's a lot of kind of crazy things that I wouldn't do today. But back in the day, which is 2 years ago, I decided that it's a great idea for me and her to go take a pilgrimage to Spain, France, and Italy. Yes, again, 35 days, away, backpacking, camping, with just a girl, and I'm still a hormonal guy, nothing's changed. But thankfully, we were able to be very pure, and it was a very very sanctifying time for me because I get to see these things, like this Catholic tradition. I went to Lourdes. I went basically everywhere you can think in Spain, France, and Italy if it has to do with, the Catholic Church. Ended up, oh man, I have so many, I'm not getting even go there. But I got back, and I immediately fell right on my face. So now, I'm past the fence point. I just took a pilgrimage. I'm ready to, take the next step into my faith, whatever that was. And I fall immediately, flat on my face. And I get wasted. I smoke pot. And I'm like, what the heck, Mike? What the heck are you doing? You just had this amazing opportunity of growth and healing and grace. Again, that I didn't know at the time. And then you just let it all go. You let it all go. So I went to confession, obviously, and the priest said, actually that's what the priest said, is that, you don't just let it go. These gifts that God gives you, that God gives us, this grace, just because you sin doesn't mean you just let it go. It's not like a little bird that just flies away. These are gifts that God's given you, that you have. So, I get into our CIA program. This was 2 years ago, and I start, making my way towards confirmation, which is really cool. I mean, I would get my, adult confirmation by my own choice. I'm sure some of you probably didn't officially choose to do it, but I got to choose to do it, which was awesome. Made it a lot more real. And then I get approached. I'm so fresh. I am just a raw Catholic. If someone came up to me and was like, hey, let's do this, I would have been like, all right, let's do it. And the team director of the Focus team in Boulder comes up to me and is just like, you should apply to Focus. And I'm like, all right. So I apply to Focus, and I go to an interview weekend, and I just have the best time of my life. The interview weekend was just so amazing. And I went there, and I was surrounded by these other Catholics that didn't exactly know what they were doing, and things were just going in this direction. So after the interview weekend, I'm super pumped. So they had this thing called the wild card. Actually, I'm not going to tell you because some of you might apply to be a missionary. Anyways, so I'm super pumped. I'm like, yes, I'm going to be a missionary. This is what's going to happen. Yes! And then a week before my confirmation, I smoked pot. Bunch! And it wasn't even a party. It was a little friggin' roach that I just pick up and I'm like, F it. Why? Why? Who knows? Who knows why? But I go to confession. And at that point, this is probably the most amazing thing that's ever happened in my life. So, after that point, oh, you know what? I totally missed the part. A call from the regional director of this region, actually. His name's Mark. He's a great guy. And he's like, you know what, Michael, I'm sorry. I don't know if this is, the right time for you to be in Focus. So at that point, my dreams are just shattered. So my plan was to go into the Colorado mountains, buy a Harley Davidson, and be a snowboard instructor. That was a great plan. I still kind of want to do it. So I quickly fall in despair, smoke pot, go into the confessional. I'm sitting there with the priest there, and he's a great priest. He's a great man. And I look over on this little tiny table, and I used to wear it. It fell off. I was pretty upset about it. But there was this little John Paul II medal. And on the back, it said, "Have no fear of moving into the unknown, knowing that I am with you." And that just hit me so hard. And it felt like in my soul, I just lifted up my hands and was like, all right, Jesus, you got me with my pants down. You got it. Anything you want me to do, I'm yours. And the most amazing thing was that if Focus called me the day before that happened, I would have said no to Focus. Focus called me a week before, I would have said no. If Focus called me in the confessional and I had the audacity to pick it up during confession, hey, what's up, Mark? Yeah, no, I'm in confession, let me call you back. I would have said no. But Focus called me the next day, the day after this confession, and was like, Mike, we would love to offer you a position in Focus. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, there would be nothing that would make me happier than to be a missionary with Focus. So now, I've been a missionary for 1.5 years. And the thing about the missionary lifestyle is that you are just living this free, radical life for something that is greater than yourself. And there's been no greater gift or sanctifying job, which I can't even call it a job, it's more like life, more of a sanctifying life than I have in Focus. Focus has, I can't say that, Jesus has brought me so close to himself, like just totally embraced me. And like all the gunk that I still have around my heart, like he is still working on it. But the fact that like he called me home and now he still has me, like I attribute to Focus. Like that was why, like the man I am now is because of the mission that Jesus has given all of us. So that brings me back. Evangeligality. So, in the beginning, I read you this little quote. An evangelizing community knows that the Lord has taken initiative because he has first loved us, and therefore we can go forward boldly and take initiative to go to others and to seek those who have fallen away. So this is like a call. I hope that you guys feel as much as I feel it, because when it's like, okay, you're in a community, okay, great, St. Paul's is a community, but like you guys especially like are a community. Like you are a sub-community in a community that's also a sub-community in a sub-community, I think. And this is your job too. Like this isn't, I know you guys have seen the missionaries around, but like the missionaries, like this is what we're here for, you know, we're here to do the Great Commission, which I'm sure you guys all have memorized by heart. But Matthew 28 Jesus says, go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And that was a commission that he gave to the disciples and to us. Like that doesn't just stop with, you know, people who are in any type of apostolate. Like that doesn't stop there. That goes for everyone who loves Jesus and who Jesus has given himself to. So that's all of us. Like that's all of us right here. So, what I want to leave you with, if I am not over time already, oh my goodness, perfect. So, the last thing he talks about, well not the last thing, but one of the things he talks about is, I think that is an issue that we all face. Okay, so I have never been to grad school. As you heard before, my education sucked. And I just have never been, you know, a grad student. So I don't know what it's like. You guys study all the time, you do whatever the heck it is, you drink all the time. Great, that's awesome. I know what I do too. But just because like we have these things, like this like concept of time, like I have no time because I'm doing this, and this. Like I have no time to give to this kind of mission. I have no time to give to Jesus in this way because I need my time. Time is possessive. It's like, I need my time. Like, I need 8 hours of sleep. I need a total of 1.5 hours to eat during the day, and then I need the other 27 hours of the day to study, because I'm a grad student. And then, of course, 2 extra hours to drink. All right, great. So this freedom, like, this time that we're trying to protect, like, I don't really understand it. And I know that the missionaries, this is almost a weekly task of like, how can we explain that like the time that you are giving to God, like this time that you're giving away, this freedom that you're giving away to God, he's going to give back to you exponentially. Like he talks 30, 60, 100 times. Like, okay, you give him 1 hour, he's going to give you 100 hours? Whoa, that's a lot of drinking time. So, he says this. This overbearing need to guard personal freedom. That we have an overbearing need to guard our personal freedom. As though the task of evangelization was a dangerous poison, rather than a joyful response to God's love, which summons us to the mission and makes us fulfilled and productive. Some of us can resist this kind of call, this little pull that Jesus gives to us on our heart. Like, this evangelization is for missionaries. Or if I do this, somehow something's going to get taken away. If I have this awkward conversation with this guy, somehow, like, that is going to affect me like a terminal poison. Like, I've just been poisoned. That's not true. That is not true. God is going to give you more than whatever you give him. He loves us so much more than we could ever understand, that the little gifts that we can give him, he will give back to us in such a greater capacity. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have already heard this, but it's still one of my favorite things. So, it's kind of like the story where, there's a little peasant and he comes, and it's actually really about Mary, and I love her so much, so I just decided to throw her in at the end. So this little peasant, he picks this apple, and this apple is like been eaten by worms, it has some mold on the side, and it's like got that soft brown thingy spot on the side that no one eats. And this peasant, us, we bring it to the queen, because we dare not bring it to the king. How could he accept such a little gift? How could he accept such an imperfect gift? And the queen does what queens do and makes it queenly, and then brings it to the king for us. So when we're scared, when we're nervous, when we are taken aback by this poison of giving our freedom away, just know that, like, Mary, like, our mom, is Jesus' mom? Yep. Our mom, too, is right there with us, going to be behind us the whole way with whatever courage, with whatever words, with whatever we need. But just to take that step, that act of faith, to give that little gift to Mary, to Jesus, will be multiplied 100 times. Thank you.